Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Jesse Crosson. He is the founder of the Second Chancer Foundation. He is also author of the memoir, The Best Part of Prison, and an advocate for criminal justice reform who understands transformation from the inside out. So we'll learn about his story and why second chances matter for all of us. Welcome to the show, Jesse.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show, Jesse. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about your story. We'll talk about redemption. We'll talk about second chances and transformation and much more. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
That's it. So just after my 18th birthday, I committed crimes and went to prison. It's a simple story. The more complex story is I grew up without the support I needed, without understanding how to cope with things, without knowing how to live in a healthy way. And I had some unhealthy role models and some unhealthy people around me, and I didn't pay attention to the kind of forces that I was feeding into my life. Committed 2 crimes, was arrested, and was sentenced to serve 32 years in prison. So at 18, I thought my life was over. I thought that it was a final chapter. Yet I was fortunate enough to have people both inside and outside who believed in me and who encouraged me and who allowed me to use the time that I was in prison to grow and to change and to help other people, rather than to kind of sit around and feel sorry for myself or sit around and just suffer. So much so that the governor of Virginia, after 19 years, granted me a conditional pardon. So rather than completing the entire 32 years, he released me after 19 years, saying that I was of greater benefit to the Commonwealth of Virginia outside of prison than I was in. In the last 4.5 years, I have just kind of hit the ground running. I started Second Chancer Foundation. We do a lot of work with incarcerated youth and adults leaving incarceration. We do a lot of work around storytelling and impact work. We're building a video game because we want to give people the opportunity to practice skills they need when they're released. We just basically work to try to create support and opportunities for people who don't have them, because we want to see a lot more success stories.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jesse. So I want to understand for the audience, if someone says, Jesse, what is it that you are trying to do now? What is it that you are doing with what you are doing, with saying with what you are doing? What's the thing that you are doing right now?
I want to help people be free. That's not just from physical prisons. That was where I started, because I knew what it was to be locked away, and I knew other people who were hardworking and deserving of a second chance but didn't get one. But recently, getting out in the world, I found that there's so many people who've never been to prison or never had handcuffs on their wrist who aren't free, who were trapped in their minds or their bodies or in relationships or in places they don't want to be. And having the experience of being physically locked away has taught me a lot about what we can and cannot change, and working to create that freedom in our lives, whatever that looks like.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jesse. So from a common person's understanding, if someone says, Jesse, help us understand whether you are, doing marketing, doing some mission work, your mission, or is it you are rebuilding your life? What would you like to tell them for any of these questions? And whether you are successful in what you are doing, the way you see the way you are doing things.
Sure. I think that storytelling is one of the most powerful tools on the planet. Whether that is to change a law, to build a business, to change the way we experience things. So when someone is trying to start, when they're starting to start their business, they're trying to restart their life, they're trying to rebuild their identity, it's about storytelling. It's about the stories we tell other people, but also the stories we tell ourselves. And so often what I see, kids at the juvenile detention center will bring in programs about education and workforce and different opportunities, and the kids will say, that's great, but that's not for someone like me. Like, people like me can't do that, or people like me don't belong there. Because the world has told them, or they've told themselves through the world, that they don't belong, they don't have a place there. And I see people do this on the outside all the time, whether, like I said, in business, in their personal life, in their relationships. And it's about telling ourselves that we do belong, that we do deserve, that we are, and actually taking the steps to show up every single day for ourselves. And again, whether that's to build a business or rebuild our identity, but show up for ourselves in such a way that we're actually moving forward, rather than kind of stuck in a place feeling sorry for ourselves, or stuck in a place feeling powerless.
Absolutely. So, Jesse, how do you look at your own life right now when you review it? Is it, do you look your as a victim of situations, victim uh, of the way the system is, or do you look at yourself, as someone special, despite whatever the situation was? You were given the second chance in life and you looked at it because you made yourself ready for it.
Yeah. I don't consider myself a victim. I think that every situation we're in, whether we deserve it or not, whether we end up with something happening that's in our control or of it, that it's an opportunity, and that's why I say that. And I see people all the time who've been victims of crime, who have suffered in great ways, who have used those opportunities to better themselves and to grow. I deserve to be in prison. Like I deserved because I had done things wrong. I was sentenced to far more than the sentencing guidelines. I was given much more time than was originally thought, but it didn't matter. I had created that situation and I had to take ownership of it. So then when I looked at the future, I said, what can I do with this time? What can I do with my space? What can I do with this opportunity? And prison allowed me to live in basically a monastery, to work mentally and physically and spiritually, to grow and to become the best version of myself that I could be, and then work to help other people, work to share that with other people because I recognized that I had been given an opportunity and I was going to make the best of it.
Absolutely, Jesse. So you talk about the system, and looking at the prison system, also people have their own views and understanding. But the people who are in that system, as you know, as someone who had been incarcerated or the way it has been, how do you look at yourself differently and them? You learned a lot of things there, as you say, but why is it that you took the second chance very nicely, very strongly? You were actually preparing for it. You did your graduation there from there, and education there, helping others, whereas others who are not able to do it. You were young, but then 18, 19 years is not a small bit of time. 32 years of term is a big amount of time, and this whole release also came unexpectedly. So how did you look at life? Why is it that others are not able to look at it?
I mean, there are other people in prison. I knew a fair number of people who were doing the same thing I was, who were growing, who were changing, were helping other people. For the people that weren't, so often it goes back to the storytelling piece because they didn't feel like they could, or they didn't feel like they deserved it, or they didn't feel like it was a path they could take, or they just felt hopeless. I would talk to guys all the time who had 5-year sentences or 10-year sentences, and they would say, why should I even try? My life is over. I'm going to be in prison for 5 years. And I would tell them, well, I'm going to be in prison for 32 years, and here's why I show up every day. And so it was, I think, the good fortune of being around people who encouraged me, and then somehow just coming to believe that I did have a possible future, that I did have things I could work toward. And what I saw is it was two questions, or it was two options. I could sit there, like I said, and feel sorry for myself, or get high, or fight, or stay in gangs, or I could build something for the future. And building that was going to school, becoming a journeyman electrician, helping start a peer sport mental health program, helping people learn to read, tutoring people for their high school equivalency degree. Basically, I had two options, and the one that gave me the greatest meaning and the greatest purpose and the greatest satisfaction was showing up for the people around me and preparing for a future, whether it came or not.
Absolutely. So, what would you like to tell people, especially young people, especially in the US or anywhere else? But since you know about the US system much more better, people understand, and the system there is, a bit different with so many challenges, politics, and system, and all those things happening at the same time. What is it that you would want to tell the young people wanting making their choices in life? Secondly, those people who are uh, within the prison system, they have been they have to serve a sentence, and also many a times they don't know whether what the future holds for them. Yes, Jesse.
Worst moment doesn't have to be the thing that chapter in your book. You can continue to write chapters. You can continue to write stories. You can continue to live a life that is worth living, even within, even behind bars. And I tell people that, again, you have two choices. Are you going to take the choice of action? Are you going to take the choice of empowerment? Or are you going to take the choice of being stuck, of continuing to be stuck, even when you know there's another option? And some people do, and I don't blame them for that. I just always tell people, remember, today can be the first day of the rest of your life. All it takes is making a small change today, then doing the same thing tomorrow and the same thing after that.
Absolutely. So, Jesse, in your case, you yourself say that perhaps you were a bit lucky because you had a strong support system outside, and when you came out of
I was very
prison,
lucky.
yeah. So when you came out of prison, there was still a lot of things that were already there. You could look at things a bit more positively, and you have mentioned that also that about toxic positivity. Some people will think just fight it out and it will happen. So you people can learn from you, but maybe a lot of people may not have the same situation for themselves in terms of that all the things that were possible for you immediately after coming out. How would you like then to look for people to look at life in the way it is for a lot of people unlike you?
Um, what I say is that gratitude makes for a good life, not the other way around. Like, we live a good life because we are grateful for where we are and for what we have. It's not that we have a good life and therefore we're grateful. At the same time, people face challenges that I didn't have to face. And I always tell people that it's okay to get knocked down. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to ask for help. And in fact, if we want to move forward in life, if we want to be successful, we're going to get knocked down. We're going to struggle, and we're going to need to ask for help. So I always encourage people, and that's what Second Chance Foundation, why we work with people leaving incarceration, because we want to provide them with that support. So all they have to bring in is the mindset, and we can give them the tools, and we can give them the opportunities. Because again, you can have all the support in the world, but if you don't take advantage of it, it doesn't make a difference. Or you can have all the good intention in the world, but if you can't get a start, if you can't get a place up, it's a very difficult thing. So we try to meet those in the middle, and all we ask is that someone shows up and does their best and brings that mindset of believing that there's a better future ahead and putting one foot in front of the other.
Absolutely. So, can you share with us the type of work and the different support system that you have created through your work as founder of your organization? And also, you have a good media following on social media following, and several things that you must be doing so that whenever someone listens to this episode, they can know, okay, this is somewhere I can get connected, and it is going to help me. Tell us about the work that you are doing in terms of different things at different forums that you have.
Sure. So we have local work with the incarcerated youth or youth who are going to be released from juvenile detention. And we have kind of an informal national network, just met people from all over the country through social media, through conferences, where if someone reaches out, and they do on a regular basis, I probably get 10 or 15 emails a day or DMs on social media saying, hey, I need a job, I need this, I need whatever somebody's looking for. I don't necessarily have the resources to give them a job or give them a place to stay, but I can generally connect them with someone in their area who does. So we've created this network where we can act as a referral agency and connect people with what they need in their area. But locally, we've built relationships with employers, built relationships with housing authorities, built relationships that allow us to make sure that kids have the support they need when they're released. And one of the most heartbreaking things for me is when the kids don't call. Like, when they leave, they have my phone number, they have their email, they have the opportunity, and often they don't call because they feel like they're a burden, or they just don't want to, or they feel like they don't need it. And then if I see that same kid come back into jail or come back into juvenile detention, it breaks my heart because they didn't reach out, they didn't ask. And so much of the work really is just being willing to put down our ego and ask for help, because it's difficult to get ahead if we don't have somebody willing to give us a hand up.
Absolutely. What are the type of changes that you are advocating for, Jesse? You talked about, in your case, I read your story that the judge gave you twice the amount of almost the sentence which the law at that point in time prescribed. Correct me if I am incorrect at any point in time.
No,
The judges
that's true.
are supposed to follow the rule of law. Can they do it? They can only recommend it. How does that work? So how did 16 years get down to twice that sentence and became 32 years in law? Second is,
So
how are there no redressal for people who have been, sentenced this way? That the governor, the case came down to the governor after 19 years, and then he had the wherewithal or the patience to go through your case, also understand the changes that you brought into your life, and then it was commuted. Help us understand, because shouldn't the system be designed in a way that lot and more people are able to be dealt by the system? Not that they should be pardoned, but they should be dealt by the system in the light of what they have done, and revised as per what is best for the life that they have undertaken and development that they have taken within the walls of the prison. What are the changes that you want with all these things that you had to go through?
absolutely. So in Virginia, in American law, it's very confusing because we have statutory guidelines and then we have sentencing guidelines. And the statutory guidelines are the amount of time allowed to be given by the judge. And in many cases, back when I was convicted, you could get a life sentence for pretty much any violent crime for a number of things that wouldn't normally call for that. But the judge has the authority to do that. The sentencing guidelines are compiled from all the judges in all the jurisdictions in Virginia to create an average for a certain crime. So in this case, generally, it will call for between 10 and 16 years, or previously it was 8 and 13 years. But the judge is still empowered by the statute to go, give someone 100 years or give someone a life sentence if they want to. Now, a lot of that has changed since 2002, thankfully, because the legislature has addressed that being an imbalance or not really making a lot of sense. But back then, the judge acted within the confines of law, just without kind of outside of tradition or outside of what would normally be done, which was respecting what the state sentencing guidelines called for. And when in Virginia, we abolished parole in 1995. So we have people who've been in prison for 10 years and 20 years and 30 years and 40 years who have done amazing work and who have bettered their lives and have helped the people around them, but have no opportunity for release other than the governor, as happened in my case. And that was just a sheer amount of luck. Like, that was a certain thing hitting at the right time and the right people speaking up for me and the right governor in office, who actually wrote me a letter when I got my book, which was really incredible. But he took that time, because we don't have a system of parole. We don't have a system of review. We don't have an opportunity to look back at someone. There's a legislation called second look, which is saying after a period of time, usually 15 years, we should go back and look at this sentence, because if this person is doing terrible things in prison, yes, maybe they need to, stay in prison. But if they're changing their lives and they're helping people and they're bettering the lives of those around them, why are we keeping them away? Why are we not encouraging and rewarding their good behavior and allowing them to share with the world all the goodness that they have? So we're advocating for that. We're pushing for reform in Virginia, pushing for reform nationally. It's just an uphill battle. And there are a lot of things in place that make it hard to make changes. But I'm hopeful that we're starting to get the culture change that is going to lead to policy change.
Absolutely, absolutely. You also talk about that, you have seen certain cases where you can almost know or see that the person has done some offense, and then they are, released much early, get very shorter punishments, knowing that they will do the crime again. And it becomes, it becomes difficult to understand for someone who is trying to bring in the changes in them, whereas they are seeing at the same time that people are getting out on shorter sentences, and the system is not able to take care, and they go and commit the crime. What is it that you want to pinpoint here? How would do you think that the legal system has that capacity to check this particular part? Because this seems to be happening more and more in several parts of the world.
Yeah, the first thing is the legal system is always going to be imperfect, and it's not going to be fair. Two people may commit the exact same crime. One person may get no time. The other person may spend their life in prison. It doesn't really make sense, and it isn't really fair. But I think that what we are trying to do is make sure that prison is actually about accountability and actually about change. Because what we do right now is we basically treat people like cattle. We lock them in a stall for a little while and then we let them out, which is not leading to substantial change. Generally, when people go to prison, they're not waking up happy and healthy and well-adjusted and having all the things they need. But if we actually give people the tools to heal and to be accountable and to make changes in their lives, they're going to be a lot more likely to do so. So when we actually focus on something called the Victim Impact Program or restorative justice or helping people be accountable and make changes in their lives, they're going to be successful at a much higher rate. But as long as we continue to have a prison system and a jail system that's just about warehousing human beings, we're going to continue to see these cycles of people going out and coming back in because they don't have the resources or the support on the outside. And that is another part. And we do this as a nonprofit, but we don't do it nearly at the scale that needs to be done if we want to help more people or help, a system-wide issue. And again, it's just kind of a conversation. It's a very slow process, and we're working to build something, but it takes time. And I'm hopeful that the conversation is happening culturally. But I also understand that it may be a battle we never win, but I'm going to keep doing it because I believe it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. During the COVID, you also talk about the inhuman conditions down there at the jail or prison. Why is it that even good people being in political power and other system also has to make sure that even inmates are getting their rightfully or rights in the right way? Why is it that the inhuman conditions still persist in a system like that? Why is it so when no one is benefiting out of it, or is someone benefiting?
There's something called the prison industrial complex, and this is a web of companies that makes billions of dollars a year by providing food service, by providing commissary, by providing telecom, like phone calls, video calls. There is an industry that is definitely profiting from incarcerated people. There are private prison companies that make billions. That said, I don't think it's a matter of malice. Of like you have few. We change the conditions, we lead to more successful outcomes. But at the same time, it takes money, it takes effort, it takes interest, and a lot of times those things just don't align. We do have a new director of the Department of Corrections I'm hopeful about. I had the Virginia Department of Corrections ask me to come down to Richmond to the headquarters to talk about the reentry program and any gaps they may have and things we can do to help. So I believe that we're moving in a better direction, but ultimately it's a huge system. It's a giant machine, and not everybody's on the same page. Until everybody gets on the same page, it's going to continue to function more.
Absolutely, Jesse. Let's come down to and learn a bit more from your book, The Best Part of Prison. It's an interesting title that your book has. Why this title? Why not something else? What did you want to say with this title?
It catches people's eyes because it's not expected. We don't think of a best part of prison, but ultimately it's the mindset that I adopted while I was in prison that led me to feel more free locked away than I did before, because I recognized that everything, every bad situation, every shortfall, every punishment is actually an opportunity. When I started to see that, I never imagined that I could feel free in prison. I never imagined that I could see a punishment as an opportunity. I never imagined that something I used to run from or think was negative could be the thing that would allow me to move forward, allow me to grow, or allow me to heal. So it really is that I learned in prison how to see everything as an opportunity. And in learning that, even behind bars, even locked and shackled and handcuffed, I was able to see where I had power in my life, the things that I could do, the gratitude that I have, because I was actually able to connect to how fortunate I was to be where I was, to be around the people that I was around, to have the opportunities to just to wake up in the morning and breathe is something that I'm grateful for every day. And I didn't realize it before because I was so busy chasing some other thing or chasing some external validation. So in prison, I was still long enough and I was quiet long enough to really appreciate just how fortunate it is just to be alive in the world, and that every opportunity I have, every person I meet, every chance I have to help someone is a blessing, and I'm grateful for it.
Absolutely. What do you have in your? It's a memoir, but what have you put in the book, and who is this book for?
So it is a memoir, but it's also a toolkit. Because like I said, this is for incarcerated people, and people across the United States who are incarcerated are getting 500 physical copies and unlimited digital copies free of charge. So this book is available inside jails and prisons across the country for free for people there. Additionally, though, I've recognized that there are people on the outside who, like I said, have never had handcuffs on, have never been to prison, but feel trapped and feel stuck. And so I have the opportunity to share with them the tools and the processes that allowed me to become the person I am today, allowed me to find liberation, literally sitting in a cell. And if I could do that, I love the opportunity to help other people find freedom in their own lives.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people who might listen to you, want to connect with you. There's so much to learn about your life and also the learnings that you have had. What is the best way for them to connect with you, and what are the things that they can connect with you for?
Sure. JesseCrosson.com. You can search. I'm on social media as Jesse Crosson or Second Chancer. I do videos on a regular basis talking about prison, but also talking about transformation and tools that can help. I do one-on-one coaching. I've done some trainings with people. We have a lot of people who reach out who want to work with the nonprofit, who want to work with incarcerated people or formerly incarcerated people. We don't always have opportunities, but we're happy to connect them with someone else. But basically, I'm here as a way to, as a person just trying to help other people be free. And so whether that is from incarceration and someone needs to do the work to earn a second chance, or that is someone who's been released who needs the support and opportunities to move forward, or that's someone who's out in the world but who doesn't feel free internally and wants to find the tools to find that freedom.
Absolutely, Jesse. My last question to you is to understand, what is it that you seek for yourself now?
I've been more fortunate. I've gotten more good in my life than I ever would have imagined. And so what I want to do is never lose the gratitude for that, never lose the presentness and the being centered in all the good that is. And I want to have the opportunity to give that to other people or give that back to the world. Because I look at where I'm at and I look at the goodness. I'm in a house. I just bought a house. I never imagined that I would be in a position to do that. And I'm grateful. And I want other people to have that same kind of freedom, that same kind of success, that same kind of opportunity. So I'm really just in a place where I want to enjoy all the things that I've worked for and all the things that I've built. And I want to share them with other people because ultimately I don't want to live a life that's alone.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.